Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Field of 68 after lunch. It's no longer after dark. It is now after lunch. It's 1:30 p.m. right now on Monday afternoon, April 22nd. I always like to put that in context when we are in the middle of portal season because you never know how long it's going to be before some of this stuff actually changes. We've had two commitments today. We put together a list. Goodman, just to kind of give people an example of how the process works for building these shows is the night before we'll put together a list of a preseason top 25 and the 10 best available players in the portal, right? And we normally do that, and you come up with this list, and you get ready to talk about it for the next day's show, so we can kind of find out where these players are visiting, where they kind of stand. And since we put together that top 10 available transfers list, 4 of them have committed since last night, Goodman. 4 of them have committed, and that kind of changes the way that some of this stuff
is that right? So, four of our 10 committed.
Since four of the people that were on the list that we put together have committed. Yeah. Trayson Eaglestaff, Alvaro Folgaris. I apologize for butchering your name. Denzel Aberdeen is committed. Ian Jackson is committed, and then Mustafa Tiam is committed. So
and Nate Johnson committed yesterday, right before we did the list.
So everything changes like this in the portal era. So I just like to give context of what the time is when we are kind of recording this stuff. We do have a lot to get to. I did mention, Ian Jackson committed to St. John's. Apparently he is a point guard now, Goodman. We have some info on what's happening with Chad Baker-Mazara and what happened with Chad Baker-Mazara at Auburn, and we'll get to that as well. And PJ Haggerty put his name in the portal, second-team All-American, probably the biggest name in the portal right now, maybe the biggest name that we've seen in the portal this season. But we have to start in the great state of Kentucky because the Wildcats landed another commitment this afternoon. They now have, I believe it is 12 scholarship players on the roster after getting a commitment from Denzel Aberdeen, a transfer from Florida that won the national title with Florida last year. We had him on after they won the championship. We praised him for his acceptance of a role. And I believe it was Friday, he put his name in the portal. Today, he committed to the University of Kentucky. And it looks like he is either going to be a third guard or the first guard off the bench, depending on how that kind of plays out on their perimeter rotation. But you have a Florida player from the state of Florida that just won a championship and was getting ready to step into a bigger role that is opting to transfer to an in-conference opponent. I don't know if that's a good thing for college basketball. It's where we are right now in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to me, this is a guy who left with a starting spot on the line, right? Denzel Aberdeen was basically guaranteed a starting spot with the defending national champions, and he left for more money. That's where we are right now. He left for more money. Kentucky's got a lot more money right now than Florida. They're a basketball school. Florida's still a football school, trying to figure it out. I think Florida's somewhere in the $7-ish million range this year. I think Kentucky could be number one. I mean, it could be BYU, Kentucky at the end of the day that are number 1 and 2 at upwards of $12 million for an NIL payroll. So they're going to have a good roster, but you look at it and you're like, okay, Aberdeen, where are you fitting in here? Because you could have gotten 30, 35 minutes of Florida. Now you're going to fight to get 20, 25 maybe at Kentucky, because last I checked, Otega Owe will likely be back, right? They signed Jalen Lowe from Pittsburgh. They've got guys coming, Colin Chandler, Trent Noah coming back, Travis Perry, all those guys. Jasper Johnson, a highly touted freshman wing, is coming back. Obviously, Aberdeen can play the point, so that gives him a little bit of an advantage there, but you're fighting with a lot of dudes. You got 12 guys on the roster right now, as you said, that can all play. And that's the beauty of Mark Pope's roster. But I would expect some things to shake up. I don't think, Noah leaves because, he's a local guy who wants to play at Kentucky. But I don't know how you keep 12 guys happy in this day and age, Rob. I don't think you can.
I think it's more than 12. I just counted it out as 14 when you add in Colin Chandler and some of the new pieces that they've brought in there. The guy that you didn't mention was Cam Williams, a transfer from Tulane.
Yeah.
But and I get it, right? I get it from Denzel Aberdeen's point of view. The number that I heard was in the $2 million range for what he is going to be
Sure.
getting from
And Florida
Kentucky.
was offering about $1 million. They were offering about half that.
Yeah, they were offering about half of that. And if you are Denzel Aberdeen, and I totally understand why you are going to chase that extra $1 million. Okay, $1 million. But I don't think that this is necessarily the best thing for that kid long term. And what I mean by that is, I want to just clarify this by saying I'm all for the players being able to get the money. It was a long enough time where they weren't able to get paid. Now that they're able to get paid, like, I don't think that being able to chase the bag is the wrong thing. The problem is right now we have a system set up that incentivizes players entering the portal and having it become a bidding war, because the bottom line is this: the portal right now is pretty dry when it comes to game-changing talent. And Denzel Aberdeen is a guy that averaged like 14-4 in the 5 games he started. If you talk to some of the people around the Florida program, they would have told you that he was one of their best one-on-one scorers last year. Like, he's a really good player. I don't know if he's going to step in immediately and start at Kentucky with Jalen Lowe and Otega Oweh there, but he might be able to play in the backcourt with the two of them and Otega Oweh at the 3. That could be something that happens. And I get it. For the amount of money that he's getting, I think that you probably have to go. But the problem is right now we have a system that incentivizes leaving. And what you're leaving behind when you're Aberdeen is an opportunity to, 1, step into a starting role as the defending national champions. 2, go play for your home state school, right? And be able to build a legacy there, right? Like, you're at Kentucky, you're just going to be, like, in the words of Lamar Wilkerson, another guy in the pipeline of great players that have come through Kentucky. When you're at Florida, you have the opportunity to be a guy that goes back to back, like Joakim Noah, like Al Horford, like Torian Green, right? And those guys are still legends around that program and get a lot of things that come to them because of the fact that they are Florida Gators through and through. And passing up the opportunity to be like an all-time Florida Gator, an all-time player at a specific program, is something that I think a lot of these guys are going to end up missing in the long term, right? Yes, you're getting the bag right now, but the problem is, like, you're going to have opportunities that come with being associated with a program that is not something that I think people can. You can't quantitate that just by the amount of money that you're making. And I think there's got to be a way, and there's got to be a system, and there's got to be a setup that allows the incentive to be coming back to the same program, that creates an incentive for retention. I don't know if that's conferences contributing to the pot that players get. I don't know if that's schools contributing to the pot that players get, but there's got to be a way to be able to allow these schools to incentivize retention, basically, and to have it be more worthwhile for the players to go back to the program that they were at than it is to enter the portal and have it be a bidding war every single year. Because it's just not, like, this is just not something that's going to be sustainable in the long run.
Well, let's just break it down quickly. 2 million to $1 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The agent fee, let's say he's paying 20%, which I don't know if he is, but if he is, right there, that's $200,000. That's $200,000 he's not getting from the agent fee, right? With the difference of $1 million. Then taxes, taking taxes out of that $1 million, that's another $300,000. $400,000, right? You're in that 40% tax bracket. So that's another $400,000. So at the end of the day, you're talking the difference of maybe $500,000, which is a huge amount of money today. Today, it's a huge amount of money. But again, what you said, which is you go back to Gainesville, you're a hero. You're connected for life in Gainesville to all those people. Once you're done playing, and I don't think Denzel Aberdeen is necessarily, he's not a lock NBA player. We know that. I'm not sure he's an NBA player. I think he's probably, if you're a betting man, you're saying he's going to play overseas for a long period of time. Even if he plays for 10, 12 years, you're 33, 34 years old, and you can be connected forever in Florida to whatever business you want. The opportunities that you're going to get, probably outweigh whatever you're getting in 8 months at Kentucky and Lexington. But again, to each their own. Congrats to Denzel Aberdeen. Now you better work your ass off to try to earn that starting spot that you were promised to Florida.
Yeah. So let's talk about what this Kentucky team looks like now, because I'll just read off the roster and what they got, man. Jalen Lowe, Otega Oweh, Denzel Aberdeen, probably your best 3 guards, however you cut it. Cam Williams, Colin Chandler, Jasper Johnson, probably guys coming off the bench at some point. Maybe Jasper Johnson slides into the starting lineup. Maybe Colin Chandler wins that rollout. You still have Trent Noah and Travis Perry. Up front, you got Mo Diabate from Alabama. You got Jaden Quaintance coming in, who probably won't be ready until maybe the middle of the season, if that. Brandon Garrison, another freshman, and Malachi Moreno, a Kentucky kid, and the Andrea Yelovich, I think is how you pronounce the name, the Euro kid there. So you got 14 bodies on the roster right now, which is a lot of pieces and a lot of mouths to keep happy. Mark Pope plays a lot of players, but that's still a lot of pieces. Where does this team stand? You put out your preseason top 25 this morning. I believe you had Kentucky 5th, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not like, I don't love, I think they could be 5th. We don't know. Last year they gelled. It was a new team that gelled together. Again, I think you got too many guys on this team. I really believe that. I don't think you want 13, 14 guys. I think you need 10. The good number is 10 scholarship players, 10 guys that can play, because you're going to have some unhappy dudes. And I just don't know if you want to deal with that at the end of the day. I feel like, again, it's much easier to have, and maybe they are scared that Owe is going to leave, but I don't think he goes to the NBA. I don't see that happening at all. He's not high on their, when I've talked to NBA guys, he's not a guy who's a first rounder, or even a 25 to 40 guy right now. I like their roster. I do. I like it because I think they got a lot of good players, and especially in the perimeter, you got like 8 dudes that can play. Up front, I just want to see what happens. How healthy is Quaintance? That's the biggest key of this team. The biggest key is you got a ton of dudes on the perimeter and not as many guys up front. And one of those guys up front is coming off a torn ACL that we do not know how he'll recover.
Yeah, my guess is that they're banking on Jaden Quaintance probably being very limited until 25, 26. Like it seems like they're kind of banking on him playing limited minutes this year. And then Trent Noah and Travis Perry are Kentucky kids who I think my guess is that they're hoping that they'll be satisfied simply being on the roster, even if it means that they've been recruited over again. And when you put all that together, maybe they don't.
They played last year, Rob. They played because of the injuries to the point guard.
Look, you're preaching to the choir. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to go through the thought process of why you put this many players on the roster. So I think that's probably where you end up. I think that this team is really damn good. Like even without Denzel Aberdeen,
nobody's denying it's good.
My question, I think, I'm with you. I think that the Mo Diabate edition is something that not enough people are getting excited about.
Friggin' love him.
Perfect role guy. And when you got a bunch of scores around him, then that's something that I think is a big time difference maker. Gun to your head, Kentucky or Louisville. You have to ride with one of them for next season. Go all in. I'm making you choose. I'm going
to go Kentucky. I'm going to go Kentucky on this one. I am, but I love the fact that both of them right now are neck and neck. Both of them are right there, and the rivalry is truly back. It wasn't really back last year. It was like half-ass back. Like, Louisville was just happy to be relevant again. Kentucky kind of came out of nowhere, but I don't think either one of them you thought there was a chance to like go to a Final Four. Maybe Kentucky fans did.
I thought
you had Louisville. I know you had Louisville go in the Final Four. I got you. But neither one were in that upper echelon is what I'm trying to say. Now I think both have a chance to be in that top tier when you're talking about a top 4, 6, 8 teams. They could both be in that discussion all year.
Yeah. One note, just real quick on Aberdeen's decision, a text that I just got. There's no income tax in Florida. So the real difference ends up being about $300,000 more that Aberdeen is making.
I forgot about that. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it to give up what he gave up, but get the bag if you can, chase the money if you can. I get it. I probably would still have Louisville a little bit ahead of Kentucky at this point. I love the additions that they brought in the backcourt. Right. The kid from Kennesaw State is, I think, the absolute perfect. Like when it comes to the best fits that you could find in the portal, I think that a kid that took upwards of 80% of his shots at the rim or from 3 in a program like Pat Kelsey's that only wants to shoot layups and 3-pointers is a great fit. I love Ryan Conwell there, man. I think Ryan Conwell has sneaky All-American potential in the role that he's going to be asked to play there. Isaac McNeely, another shooter, and they bring a couple of big guys back. So I would probably lean a little bit towards Louisville over Kentucky at this point, but I mean, it's like asking what your favorite flavor of ice cream is, right? Some people like mint chocolate chips, some people like vanilla, some people like pistachio, even though pistachio is disgusting. So
nobody likes pistachio. Nobody likes it.
Then why does it exist?
I don't know. It's like bubble gum. Like
then why does
gum
it exist
for the kids? Like people like bubble gum ice cream because your kids like it. Then they grow out of it. Like nobody really likes. I've yet to find anybody that goes in and orders pistachio ice cream.
I'm sure that it exists. So the simple fact that it exists tells me that somebody has to be ordering it. Otherwise, like this is supply and demand and market economics. Goodman, come on. You're breaking down tax brackets here for players going pro. You should be able to understand basic economics.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't figure that one out.
All right. The other big decision that was made today was Ian Jackson committed to St. John's. Now, this wasn't necessarily a surprise for people because I think, look, when he picked North Carolina coming out of high school, it was between North Carolina and St. John's. And then he enters the portal and everybody says he's going to St. John's. Like that was one of the worst kept secrets in college basketball. And then the process kind of played out. Like we saw Denzel Aberdeen commit after 2 days, right? He went to the portal knowing where he wanted to go. Ian Jackson took probably like, 2.5, maybe 3 weeks it's been that he's in the portal. And he finally committed today. And part of the reason he committed was he wants to, I guess he expects to play the point. Rick Pitino said that they got the new point guard there.
I don't think that's what it was. I think it was honestly now out of necessity. I don't think St. John's wanted him to play the point. I mean, they tried to get another guy who ended up in Gainesville. You know, they didn't want Ian Jackson. That was not their top option at the point was not Ian Jackson. It was Ian Jackson, you know, coming off the bench as a combo guard or maybe starting as a combo guard. But now, if you look around, there just aren't a lot of top point guard options. Mm-hmm. So they had a pretty good shot at Ian Jackson all the way along. And now you wonder if at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, if you're Ian Jackson, you're thinking like my best shot at the next level is to be a scoring point. So now I have an opportunity to do that at St. John's. And as I said, I just don't know if this is the best case. Well, I know it's not the best case scenario for St. John's. Maybe if it is, if they win a national title next year. But to me, he's a scorer. We have seen him play enough. He is not a point guard who looks to distribute the basketball. Now, he's got arguably the best coach in America right now tutoring him on how to become a point guard. But I think it's going to take time. And I still think if I'm St. John's, I go get another point guard just to make sure. You better have a backup, a plan B on this one. And there's a couple mid-major point guards right now. There's one that's going to pop in the portal later today. There's also a kid named Dylan Darling at Idaho State that's available that could be in the mix for the Johnnies. I wouldn't throw all my eggs in that Ian Jackson point guard basket, Rob.
Even though Rick Pitino, I'm going to read a quote from him. We had big shoes to fill at the point. Kadari and Devin were awesome. The ball is now in the hands of our next great point. Let's go, Ian. Rick Pitino posted that on Twitter exactly 1 hour ago now. He did it at 12:47 p.m. Today, April 21st. So, yeah, you know, I'm scrolling through right now the best guards available according to 24/7 Sports top whatever ranking.
Point guards.
Yeah, Doug McDaniel pops. Nick Dorn, a kid from Elon, is in there. And once you get past that, man, like the pickings are slim. Like right. You're kind of scraping at the bottom of the barrel at this point.
That's why Rob Wright went for $3 million. Mm-hmm. That is why the point guard position early was the one that everybody was thinking about overpaying for, because everybody looked at it and said how important it is, number one, and how few high level point guards there were. So I think, again, if I'm St. John's and Rick Pitino and I'm Johnny's fans, I'm excited because, man, my starting five is electric, right? I mean, it is. I mean, you look at these guys right now and you're thinking, all right, our front line is as good as I know maybe anybody in the country's, Rob. when you really look at it, right? You've got Bryce Hopkins at the 4 and Zuby at the 5, and Sellers and Shannon are two guys who could shoot the ball from the wing. Ian Jackson can break dudes down. There's no doubt about that. He can go get his whenever he wants. But is he going to make life easier for any of these guys? He's going to have to learn to be able to do that.
Yeah, you know who's still available in the portal right now?
Go ahead.
Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, well, not really a point guard.
Yeah, not really a point guard.
Yeah.
No, look, I think the Johnnies are going to be really good. The St. John's Johnnies, if you will. And if there is one guy in college basketball that I would trust to be able to find a way to make it work with a bunch of guards that are maybe shoot first, it's the guy that is coaching the St. John's.
It's not Dan Hurley?
Yeah.
Wait, you're saying it's Rick Pitino? You're saying Rick Pitino is the best coach in college basketball and not Dan Hurley?
No, what I'm saying is that when he took a team last year that could not shoot, that point blank period could not shoot, brought him to a 2 seed, won both Big East championships, and had him as a top 10 team. He took a flawed program and turned them into a top 10 team. And I think when you're looking at it this year, most likely, once again, it's probably going to end up being a fairly flawed roster in terms of the way that it's built, because you're not going to have a point guard. Isaiah Sellers, Bryce Hopkins, Jozan Sanan. I got to figure out how to say his name at some point. Ian Jackson, Ruben Prey, Zuby Ejiofor. Like, there's a lot of really good pieces there, but you're missing a point guard. You're maybe missing a little bit of depth up front. But I just trust Rick Pitino finding a way to be able to make it work, because he's going to do what he has to do to force turnovers, create easy shots, get out in transition, find ways to be able to run. Let me ask you this. So we have PJ Haggerty as the best available transfer on the market, right? He is a guy that is commanding way too much money, but is at least on paper someone that can play the point, and he's probably asking to play the point now that he's in the transfer portal, right? Before we get into, I know you got some insight on what's happening there, but would that be an option that you would look at if you were Rick Pitino, PJ Haggerty, somebody like that? Or is that too many cooks in the kitchen, too many guys that want to be shoot first, score first guards?
Hang on one sec. Just tweeting about an Indiana St. John's visit. Jason Drake from Drexel, who averaged about 11 points a game and shot 40% from 3, visiting Indiana today, visiting St. John's Thursday. Just tweeting that, and then I'll get back to you. Hang on.
Okay, so let's get it out there. Is this the mid-major guy in the portal that you were talking about that might be in there?
No. There's a point guard from the West Coast, a mid-major point guard from the West Coast who may pop, and if he does, I think there'll be a bunch of high majors on him.
Okay, well,
from the WCC.
That okay, I think I know who you're talking about. Well, listen, when it comes to PJ Haggerty, second team All-American this past season. He was a guy that averaged 20 points a game, almost 4 assists, gets to the foul line a ton, an efficient score. You reported, I believe it was you, that his ask right now is $4 million and that he wants to play the point. What can you tell us about PJ Haggerty? What can you tell us about maybe what the marketplace looks like right now for a player like him, and any other insight that you have into what's happening there with PJ Haggerty in Memphis?
So the initial thought was $5 million for PJ Haggerty. His dad is repping him. And calling around, and the initial ask was $5 million. And I get it. He's thinking, hey, my kid's an All-American. JT Toppin just got $4 million. Why can't my son get more? And he's not wrong in some respects. Haggerty saved Penny Hardaway's job, right? And Memphis can't pay. From what I'm told, they do not have the money, believe it or not, which is shocking to me. With all that FedEx money, they don't have the money to pay PJ Haggerty that type of money. So dad goes around and he's calling around and talking to these schools, and he's saying, we want at least 4. The starting point is 4. He thinks he's still going to go up from there. And he wants to make sure his son plays point guard the majority of the time. Now, PJ Haggerty is not really a point. He's a scorer. We know that. He can play some point. But basically, a lot of these bigger schools are saying there's no way. We're not paying $4 million. Whether it's St. John's, whether it's Baylor, whether it's Indiana, whether it's Kansas, whether it's Florida. I've told all of them are out at that asking price. All of them are out. and again, I think part of it is the money. Part of it is also the demand to play the point the majority of the time. I think 70% of the time was what his dad was asking for at this point. Again, let me be clear. PJ Haggerty's, we had him as a second team, I think, All-American this year. We love the kid.
We didn't have him as an All-American at all. And John Martin was very, very upset about that. He was an AP second team All-American.
Right, that's what he was.
He was number 16 on our list of 15 All-Americans. So he's an awesome player.
Whatever the case, he is a bucket getter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is. But is he worth $4 million? Well, again, they're looking at it as Rob Wright signed for 3. The number out there is 3.5. It's actually 3. So Rob Wright signed for 3. So they're thinking, well, my kid's better than Rob Wright, which he was last year. But again, timing is everything, because a lot of these schools right now don't have the same money they had 3 weeks ago when Rob Wright signed. And BYU was the one who picked Rob Wright. And BYU's got big-time pockets right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a few schools that have what BYU, Kentucky's done at this point. They're done. They're not doling out $4 million for PJ Haggerty. We just went through their perimeter. So how many other schools? Arkansas probably, maybe they could get it, but I'm not sure they can get it after last year's debacle for most of the season. I'm not sure John Calipari could get $12, $15 million like people thought they could to compete financially with Kentucky, with BYU. I think BYU and Kentucky are at a different realm right now than almost anybody else.
Yeah. And $4 million when you are a guy that has put up huge numbers, albeit playing in the AAC at Tulsa and at Memphis, and you haven't won a postseason game putting up all those numbers, I think that probably scares some people off too. Like, he is, as funny as it is, I think he would be a perfect fit in a system similar to what UConn wants to run, right? Because the way that UConn, they run all their stuff, right? And they put the ball in their point guard's hands and they say, go make something happen once all that kind of fails. And that was a perfect role for Tristan Newton, who, like PJ Haggerty, struggled a little bit when it came to winning games playing in the AAC while putting up big numbers and doing it. So that's kind of what I think would make a lot of sense for him in terms of where he ended up. It's just $4 million.
The question is now, Rob, where does he go? And I'm not even sure I can answer that right now today, because I don't know a school right now that's going to pay $4 million. Now, maybe if they miss on some other guys, but who is it? Again, BYU, like we just discussed, there's only a few teams. BYU, Kentucky are out. So now you're dealing with a bunch of schools that, frankly, the top end, there's probably another 15 schools that have $10 million or so, somewhere in that $9 to $11 million range. Well, a lot of those already have guards. They've already committed to guards. So they don't have, they might not have more than $1 million left out of their budget. So I just don't know where he ends up going. I think he ends up going, honestly, to a school and a coach who might be desperate, who might be so desperate they raise some extra money here to keep their job. And we saw it a little bit with Coleman Hawkins. It wasn't the same with Tang. Tang wasn't desperate in a sense that his job was on the line last year, but he rolled the dice with some dudes, and it obviously backfired. So I just don't know. It's going to be interesting to see who. I don't think he'll get 4. I think, Donovan Dank got a little over 3 from what I'm told from UCLA. Rob Wright got about 3. I could see PJ Haggerty being in the same conversation, 3-ish, maybe a little bit over.
What can Memphis get to? That's my question. Like, you say they don't have money. Can they get anywhere near that? Because this is another guy where if you can get somewhere near that, then it makes a lot of sense.
5, let's say you have 5 total. Are you spending? You're Penny Hardaway. Are you going to spend 3 on PJ Haggerty if you have 5 total?
If I'm Penny Hardaway, I'm putting 3 of my own into the bucket like that.
Coaches don't do that. I find out coaches are the cheapest bastards out there, that they do not take their own money. Some of them should. Because if you look at it, especially a coach that's on the hot seat right now and has to win this year, right? You take $1 million of your own money in the hopes of winning enough that you can get an extension and get another $20 million on the back end. But most coaches are not going to do that. We know that.
Yeah, I just Googled Penny Hardaway's net worth, and it's over $50 million. So
I thought it'd be more than that. I actually
yeah,
thought it'd be more.
yeah. Well, this is according to something called Sports Kita.
Yeah.
So who knows if
I'm
that's
not
actually
buying that.
accurate?
I think it's way more.
He made $120 million in his career, and that's to say nothing about his deal with Nike. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't think that there should not be a reason why Memphis is only at $5 million. Is kind of the way that I view it. If I'm
Where would you
a Memphis
like
fan.
like looking at it here? One place that I think could make some sense is like Ole Miss. It's down the road from Memphis, so obviously they followed what he did. They're in the SEC. I think he would like to go, from what I'm told. Again, this is beyond. Obviously, you got the money, you got the position, all that, but also playing in a place where he's relevant all year. After watching last year, nobody paid attention to them after January 1st. Ole Miss, they need a guy like him. I mean, they do. What have they gotten? Corin Johnson, AJ Storr. They don't really have a dude right now. They had a ton of money a year ago. I'm assuming they've got pretty good money. Maybe not, again, at the highest level. But I could see Chris Beard maybe moving on a guy like this.
Yeah, and I think he would do well in Chris Beard's system. That makes a lot of sense. Beard does well with guys of that ilk. So yeah, I could see that one working out for him. But the point I was going to make before is if you look at kind of the places that do have big money, right? And you look at some of the most recent commitments that we've seen. Nate Johnson just committed to Kansas State. That's another point guard in a place that has buckets of money. Indiana got Lamar Wilkerson. They got Tatum Conaway. They picked up like 4 guys in the last 3 days. By the way, I've seen some criticism for the work that they've done to the portal, Indiana, and I don't really get it. I feel like they've actually put together a pretty good starting spot for where they could be.
They got the Miles kid from North Florida too, Connor Enright from DePaul. Obviously, you're going to need one of these dudes to be a dude, right? You're going to need Lamar Wilkerson to be a dude.
I think it will be Lamar. I think Lamar is going to be. Yeah, I think he's going to be this season's Chaz Lanier. But
because if Tucker is your best player,
I don't think he will. I think the way that I see this kind of playing out, and tell me if you think I'm crazy. The way that I see this playing out is that you have your kind of downhill point guard in Tatum Conaway, right? You have 2 shooters that are going to play around him in Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson. And those are going to be the guys that you kind of run a lot of your sets for. You got Reed Bailey, who can play the 3 or the 4, could be a little bit of a floor spacer, going to create a lot of space in the middle. Connor Enright and Josiah Miles are good kind of rotation pieces on the perimeter. They need to go get another 4 unless you're buying with the Trent Sisley kid.
Well, they're hoping Luke Goody gets eligible, I guess. But
we'll see. A lot of hoping for that. What they need to do is they need to go out and they need to get themselves like a big physical 5-man. If they can go out and spend $3 million on a 5-man, even if that means going and pulling somebody that's already committed, going and asking someone to put their name in the portal
to tamper. Are you advocating to tamper, Robert?
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just enough of a realist to realize that is how it works in this day and age in the year of our Lord 2025. So go out and get a 5-man, get someone to commit there. That's basically what you need. They're a 5-man away, a big physical 5-man away from having a team that is really worth talking about here for Indiana. I feel like I'm on an island with that take.
I mean, I think Indiana is going to be good. I just think that the key is going to be point guard play, number one, because I'm not sure Conaway's the guy, and I think Enright's a good backup point guard. So, again, it's a big part of who's going to be really good this year and who's not, right? Like who's got those point guards that are high level that you can trust. That's why we've got Purdue number 2 with Braden Smith, right? Like there aren't that many. I love what Iowa has put around Bennett Sturts. Listen, I'm going to advocate for Bennett Sturts being a damn preseason first-team All-American. I know everybody's going to push back on me, but my love affair for Bennett Sturts. And now he's got shooters around him, right? Brendan Howson, the kid from Robert Morris, Alvaro. Like those guys are both basically 40% three-point shooters. Imagine, like Bennett Sturts, it's like watching a damn video game, watching him play.
Yeah. Tavian Banks, Cam and Yawu, they got some decent pieces there. I was actually going to shut them out early. Like they've Ben's done a pretty good job of building things there. Listen, we got a lot more that we want to get to here. We got to talk about Chad Baker-Mazara. We got to get into Nate Ament's commitment to Tennessee, Tracy Engelstaff's commitment to West Virginia, and we need to go over the best available transfers that are still left, because there are some players that have not committed yet, believe it or not. And we will do all of that coming up on the other side of this break. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light. Welcome back, Field of 68 after lunch. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman. We are talking about all of this transfer portal nonsense. Talked about Denzel Aberdeen earlier. Talked a little bit about Ian Jackson's commitment to St. John's and what that means. And we broke down the options that PJ Haggerty has available to him as a member of the Portal Association today. Perhaps the most surprising name that we saw in the portal throughout this entire cycle, Goodman, was Chad Baker-Mazara. That's partly because of the culture that Bruce Pearl has built at Auburn. That's partly because Chad Baker-Mazara turns 26 this season. And that's partly because it seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to come back to Auburn. But late last week, he opted to put his name into the portal. Just kind of break down. I know you know a little bit about what's going on there. Break down what is happening with the situation and kind of some of the details around his decision to transfer out of Auburn.
All right. So let me try to do this the best I can here, the best of my knowledge. So Chad Baker-Mazara signed a deal to remain at Auburn, I don't know, 6 weeks ago or so. I think it was in February. And the deal was worth a little, I think it was around $1 million. Okay, around $1 million. And again, my sources say that Chad then found out, and he was hurt, that Keyshawn Hall signed a deal with Auburn after the season for double the money, somewhere in the two-ish, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 range, somewhere there. And he was hurt because, he helped lead Auburn to a Final Four. He's obviously done a really good job. You could say what you want out of Chad Baker, and I can go into my thoughts of Chad as well. But he's been a big piece of their success the last couple of years, and he was hurt by that. They renegotiated, and the number that Auburn came up to was not satisfactory to Chad and his camp. He signed a deal, Rob. He signed a deal in which if he gets out of that deal legally, he would have to pay back a significant percentage of that 1.1 million. I'm told it's around 60% of the deal. Well, he went in the portal last week. So he is willing to pay that 60% of one, that's $650,000, I believe, if my math is correct, of $1.1 million. So will Auburn, number one, and it won't be Bruce Pearl, but it'd be the school, would they choose to sue Chad Baker-Mazara if he doesn't pay the $650,000? Now, if you're Chad Baker-Mazara's camp, you also could be thinking, well, you know what? I can make more going on the open market to pay for that $650,000. Guys are making $2.5, $3 million. I'm hurt. I'm willing to pay that money, and I'm going to make $3 million or $2.5 million, and it's still going to make up, 2.5 minus 650. I'm still going to make out on this overall deal, and I want to go somewhere else right now because I don't feel like I was been straight up by Auburn with the key shot. And again, it's hard because let me get your thoughts first, and then I'll kind of push back or weigh in. But what are your thoughts on that overall situation? Hearing
well, it depends. I get why Chad is going to want to try to get back out there and make a little bit more money, right? I also think that it's a situation similar to what we talked about with Denzel Aberdeen, where if he stays around the Auburn program, the long-term benefits of that significantly outweigh the one-time payday that he's going to be able to make. I also think that I'm on board. Like if Auburn's going to sue him, I'm on board with that. You sign a contract that has that as the buyout, and then you still put your name in the portal. Like that's if this is going to be professional basketball, and we're going to be dealing with millions.
right, you signed it.
We're going to be
You
dealing
signed
with
it.
millions and millions of dollars, and you sign something, a legal document, and then try to, you can't back out of that. That's not how it works. This is the real world now. This is professional sports. You sign a contract that you don't like in the NBA. You know what? You either play it out or you hold out until they offer to give you more money. But the power is with the program. The power is with the company, the franchise, and the organization. If you sign that contract, you should be binded.
Depending on the contract. This contract was favorable. It had protections for the school. There's a ton of contracts out there that aren't that.
Then you shouldn't have signed that. You signed that contract, and you are then right. Like you're 26 years old, Chad. You signed a contract with this is the buyout, and now you want to go in the portal, and that's what the buyout is. You got to pay for it. I don't feel bad for him at all. Like you are professionals. You're 25, 26 years old. Like he can't be sitting here pretending like he got the wool pulled over his eyes. No, he's got to pay that back if he goes in the portal. He does, and I firmly believe it.
So now the question becomes: can Chad Baker-Mazara, all right, can I tell you my thoughts on Chad first of all? Because I was not the biggest Chad Baker-Mazara fan a year ago. When he got booted out of the game at Yale, there's been a lot of issues over the years with him. And drama, with other players. 25 years old. A lot of people saying like, just be done with college. Now, to me, if I'm Chad Baker-Mazara, number one, I wouldn't be done with college because he doesn't come from a lot. Comes from the Dominican Republic, and if he can make $2-3 million, and he's not alone here, you absolutely come back and do that because that may be more money than you ever make. You could be in the G League making $50,000 next year. So. You get paid. Number one, you get paid. All these kids putting their name in that are ineligible right now, trying to get an extra year. I get it. Why not? Even if it's a Hail Mary, throw it, man. Because if it lands, you're going to get set up for life. But Chad, I've gotten to know over the last probably few months this season, and I really do like Chad a lot. I think again, is he immature? Sure, he's immature, absolutely. But if you watch him in the NCAA tournament, he actually didn't have many issues on the court with any other players. He wasn't going down and faking injuries, things of that nature. I really thought he grew up a lot this NCAA tournament, thinking about what happened last year, how he might have cost his team a deep run in the NCAA tournament. So, for me, I understand not everybody is going to want Chad Baker-Mazara, but I do think, there'll be some teams right now that and there have been some teams that have called on him. And I'll give you 4, Rob. I'll give you 4 teams right now that have called. And I don't know the level of interest right now. It's still fairly early in the process. But Arkansas, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Providence are 4 teams that absolutely have called on Chad Baker-Mazara and shown some level of interest so far.
Yeah. Providence just got a commitment today from Duncan Powell, who was previously committed to Georgetown, which I'm sure Providence fans are really going to enjoy that one. We'll talk about that in here in a second. The Arkansas one is the one that I think that makes the most sense to me, right? If you look at the way that roster kind of is situated right now, I don't think that it's a finished product. I think adding Nick Pringle and Malik Ewing in the front court was enormous for them because now you got a couple of big bodies there. And I love the combo of Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, and Trevon Brazile at like the kind of the 3-4 spot. You'll be able to work through those 3 guys. And their backcourt, whether it's Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, DJ Wagner, there's some combination there that'll be really, really effective in the backcourt. I think they need one more perimeter piece. And I think Chad Baker-Mazara makes a lot of sense because of his ability to kind of score one-on-one and score in isolation and create off the bounce and the veteran presence that he will provide, emotional or not, on a team that is going to be starting most likely 2 freshman point guards is something that matters and something that will have an impact. And he's won at a very high level at Auburn. So Arkansas is the spot that makes the most sense to me if he is going to leave. But if I'm him, I mean, what did you say that Auburn's rebuttal was for what they were trying to come back with to him? Was it like 1.5, 1.6?
I didn't say.
Whatever it was, I would go back and see.
It's somewhere in the 1.6 range, and he wanted a little.
If I'm Chad Baker-Mazara, that's the decision that I'm making. Is I'm going back to Auburn. I'm saying, look, just get me to.
It's just so hard now. It's so hard to go back once you put your name in the portal. It is so hard to crawl back for these kids, especially if somebody else is. Now, again, if nobody's offering 2.5, then you're at a point where you're like, oh, what did I do here? But I think somebody will probably pay 2.5 for Chad Baker.
You're probably right. You're probably right. I just,
He's
and you know what?
man.
And I'll be honest, if I was 25, I might have a different view on a lot of this stuff, right? But now that I'm 40 and I'm kind of sitting here looking back on all of it, I'm like, man, you got to be thinking about the long term here. Maybe I'm just old and wise now at this point, Goodman.
You're not wise. You may be old.
Yeah.
But
Where do you stand right now on Arkansas as a whole, overall?
I mean, I like what they did. Their pickups with their bigs, I thought were pretty good in terms of getting 2 bigs last week. Acuff, I still want to see how good he is. I assume he'll have the ball in his hands a ton, which means DJ Wagner won't. And I wonder how that's going to go after DJ Wagner had the ball in his hands so much at the end of the year last year. But Malik Thomas is freak, terrific talent. Again, Ewing and Pringle up front, they got enough. I don't know if they probably got one more player still that they can get, but right now they got 3, 5, 7, 9 guys, 8 or 9 guys. They probably need one or 2.
Do you think a dude's going to get drafted? Does he leave his name?
Yeah, I don't think he comes back. I'd be shocked if he comes back. So I think you're looking Acuff, Wagner, Malik, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, then up front, Brazile, Ewing and Pringle. And then they probably need one more big and one more front court guy, I'd say, and one more guard, and that'll put you, 10,
Look,
11 guys.
I'll give Cal credit where it's due, man. Like one of the keys that we saw with teams that made it to the Final Four this year was having a core that you're able to return and kind of build around. And maybe I'm crazy, but I do think that Billy Richmond, Carter Knox, Trevon Brazile, and even DJ Wagner, having that as your core to build around. Totally. You split the minutes at the 5 with Nick Pringle and Malik Ewing. You get Darius Acuff in there and Malik Thomas in there. I think that he's the groundwork is there for them to be able to have a good season. Can you imagine if Malik Thomas and Chad Baker-Mazara play on the same team? You have 2 absolute lunatics on the same. Malik Thomas is nuts, man.
But he's awesome. He's so
Yeah,
talented.
he's the perfect John Calipari guy when it comes to the way that some of that he's built. All right. Three other commitments that I wanted to get to or two other commitments I wanted to get to real quick before we kind of got into our best available transfers list. Nate Ament committing to Tennessee, top 5 prospect, a 6'9" wing, a guy that's really blown up over the course of the last 18 months. I have some takes on him in terms of what his ability is, but before I get into all that, just he committed to Tennessee. What do you make of that commitment? What do you make of a decision? And I think a lot of people saw that those winds were blowing towards Duke, and it seems like Duke maybe got priced out of the equation there. What do you know about that commitment?
Yeah, I was still priced out, scared a little bit. Again, Duke's not used to dealing with this, right? I mean, when they dealt with the boozers, you're dealing more with the families than the agents. And in this one, you're dealing more with an agent, and a younger agent who, frankly, like is trying to figure this thing out. And I think ultimately Tennessee was the one who was able to pay the most, that had the best opportunity for him to flourish and really show what he could do, because Nate Ament, man, he is a special talent. Like, he could be the best in 10 years. We could be looking up at, Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonce and the Boozers, and Nate Ament could be the best of the 4 in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to be the best of the 4 next year in college, just because more of his body frame, Rob, scares me a little bit next year physically. I don't know how he's going to be able to adjust to the college game, but he's tough. He's skilled. He looks like Kevin Durant. His body looks like Kevin Durant. He's not quite as tall, but he's 6'9", 6'10", long, skinny, tough. He fights you. I mean, he had a game, I think, last year in high school or AAU where he had like 20 points. I think it was like 40 points, 20 rebounds or something. So I was expecting the first time I saw him in Rock Hill to see this dude who was like built like a man, because he had 20 rebounds in a game, and he's not at all. But again, high upside, super skilled. Just don't know how impactful he's going to be from a production standpoint next year in Knoxville.
Yeah, that's kind of where I land on this commitment, right? Is that it feels like Tennessee is bringing him in to play the Dalton Connect, Chaz Lanier kind of a role, and I'm not convinced he's good enough to do that. I hear what everyone's saying. I guess I kind of understand the logic, but the idea that you think that he's going to end up being, or not you, but like that people think that he's the same caliber of prospect as DeBonce or Boozer or Darren Peterson is a little bit of a stretch for me. And maybe it's just because he's young and they're betting on the growth that he's made over the course of the last 18 months. But if you're Rick Barnes and you've built this entire program around toughness and physicality and being old and being physical and Jemai Meshack and Zakai Ziegler and players like that, and now you're kind of going all in on a freshman that looks like he's about 190 pounds soaking wet, that just, it seems like a big risk. And I don't know if the fit's there.
Well, and everybody's going to say, well, Kevin Durant did it. And it's like, yeah, but there was only one Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant,
I hate what people use.
Like, it's Kevin Durant.
The only, right. They use like the highest level example for everybody. Well, he did it. And it's like, yeah, but like, he's LeBron. He's KD. He's like, like there's only one of those guys. Most of the guys who looked like Nate Ament have not worked out at the highest level in college as freshmen. They've taken time to adjust.
Yeah, it seems like a risk. But if you're looking for a player like that, I don't know where else you're going to find it in the portal this year. So if they're saying we got the money to spend, because I mean they brought in Jacoby Gillespie, but beyond that,
So here's one for you. Rank these 4 players in terms of college next year and who you would want. Forget about position, any of that crap. I'm asking you to draft these 4 guys in order next year of who you would want for college. AJ DeBonce, Darren Peterson Jr., Cameron Boozer, and
Peterson, Boozer, DeBonce, Ament.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Same
But
thing.
I will say,
and I might even go.
I think the more I think about it, I probably have Boozer 1 just because it means that you're bringing Caden Boozer, and I love Caden. I think Caden Boozer is going to step in and immediately be an impact point guard.
I didn't ask about the
Yeah,
Boozer
but it
package.
comes with the
One
package.
guy.
Peterson
no
Boozer,
package.
Peterson
One guy.
Boozer. I think you go either way works. AJ DeBonsa to me clears Ament by a good amount, and I can make an argument for him to be number 1. It's less about the talent and more about the how much is AJ going to invest in winning this year versus setting himself up to be a $1 billion piece at the NBA level. That's my only question about DeBonsa. But like when it comes to the most talented, it's DeBonsa, and it's not even close. Like he's different. There's a level of different that you get, and he is different when it comes to what he can do on a basketball court.
No doubt. All right, we're going to run.
Trace and Eagle staff committed to
West
West Virginia. That was not necessarily a surprise, but you saw that one coming, and he committed. They got it done. There's not much. There's not much more to say. I think, look, Ross Hodge is going to do a great job at West Virginia, and that is example A. Rodney Rice, what do you have on him?
So Rodney Rice, he's been deliberating on this decision for the last few days, and according to my sources, USC has a lucrative offer out there. Lucrative offer. I think they're the front runner right now. I do. I think they're the front runner. To me, again, Tennessee is in the mix, but after Nate Ament went there, I'm not sure that happens. And obviously Villanova, his former head coach, Kevin Willard, they're not offering what USC is offering. USC is offering Robert a bag for Rodney Rice.
Yeah.
So I think he'll go to USC. That's just my guess.
That would make a lot of sense. The thing that's crazy about that, I didn't even think of USC when it comes to getting the bag and who you would want.
Yeah.
PJ Haggerty to play for. USC probably has a lot of money, and I would be shocked if Eric Musselman wasn't able to find a way to make it work with it. Eric Musselman has won a lot of games with a lot of players worse than PJ Haggerty, so that could make a lot of sense there as well. Cedric Coward, Washington State. I was talking to a coach today, and I was like, "Yeah, what about Cedric Coward? He could end up being a pretty big player for you guys." He just goes, "He wants a lot of money." That's all he said.
Yeah, I mean, Cedric Coward, talented, obviously Eastern Washington State put his name in for the draft, going through the process. As I said last week, who did I say the Duke, favorites were? Duke and Alabama. I think it's actually probably Alabama 1A, Duke 1B. Those are the two favorites and probably the two right now. I'm not even sure there's two others in the mix right now. So those are the two. Alabama and Duke. I think he will commit here in the next week or so. I don't think he'll wait to go through the process and then withdraw and then commit. If he does withdraw, I think he'll commit here soon. Who else we got?
Andre Stojakovic. Well, I understand why guys are going to be above him in the portal. I watched him put up 37 on Stanford in the ACC tournament in the first round there, and I'll tell you what, man, that dude can absolutely play. I'm a little surprised that there aren't maybe bigger programs that have kind of gotten themselves in the mix with Andre. Like I figured when he hit the portal, like we were going to be hearing Duke and Kansas and programs of that ilk. And all due respect to Illinois, but he's on a visit right now to Illinois. Is that where do you see him ended up baby Peja in Illini Nation?
So here's the list I got. Kentucky, which I think
he's out now. My guess is that was on the list before Aberdeen committed. Like there were a bunch of guys.
Carolina, Florida, USC. I assume if they don't get Rodney Rice, Gonzaga, Cincinnati, LSU, Alabama, or go back to Cal. Those are the ones that again. And now you see like who's still got some money, right? Like that's what you're seeing now. The list now, you're going to see some of the same teams over and over and over. USC's got a bunch of money. And who would you rather have? If you had your choice between Rodney Rice or Stojakovic, who would you take? I think I would take Stojakovic.
Yeah, probably. I think Rodney Rice.
I love
It
him.
kind of depends on the role that you need him to play, right? Like if you're looking for a complementary piece, right? Like I think it's probably more Rodney Rice. If you need more of a score than just a guy that can play a 3-and-D role, I would probably take Stojakovic. But overall, I would probably like if you're just ranking him, I think Stojakovic is better in a vacuum.
I agree. I agree. But either one, I mean, I'm sure if you're USC, right, you're just going to take the bird in the hand, as Jeff Borzello loves it when I say, take the bird in
As
the hand. I don't
as
even know
as
what that
your
means.
boy Trilly Donovan likes to say, some of the best gets are the ones you already have, right?
There you go.
Jameer Watkins, last one.
Yeah, I don't have much on him. Honestly, he's kind of the one that I don't. Maybe Illinois. I don't know. I mean, Arkansas. I'm guessing here. I'm honestly guessing. I haven't gotten a lot of intel on Jameer Watkins. I'll give you a little intel on Terrence
Yeah.
Arsenault. Terrence Arsenault, the former top 50 player, who just hasn't really found his footing completely at Houston. I think it's going to be NC State or Virginia right now. Those are the two that I'm told are going to be in
That
the
is a
mix.
wild
And then
discrepancy when it comes to like the way that you would expect those coaches to play. A
a little
wild
bit,
discrepancy.
little
You
bit.
got Will Wade against Ryan Odom. Like that.
I know, huh? Little different. I'm going to give you a mid-major point guard who I think I mentioned earlier in this when we were talking about St. John's. Dylan Darling, Idaho State, is going to visit St. John's at this point. Now, again, things could change quickly. But at this point, Dylan Darling is expected to visit St. John's. The other schools that are in the mix for him a little bit are Texas A&M and Iowa. Now, I don't know how that works with Bennett Sturts and Dylan Darling together, but I feel like, again, I'm like Bennett Sturts' like agent. He could play with anybody, Rob. Bennett Sturts could play with anybody.
How much are you charging him? 5%?
No, I'm not. 0%. I fell in love with the kid back in November. The best thing about Bennett Sturts, here's the best thing. Not only how he plays on the court, but the kid doesn't give a shit off the court. He doesn't care. He just wants – he could have gotten – think about this, Rob. Think about how much more money he could have gotten if he put his name in the portal. I mean, Bennett Sturts is as good as Donovan Dent. He's as good as Rob Wright. He could have gotten $3 million. Then I might have taken
First
a
of all, I
percentage.
disagree with that. I disagree. I think Rob Wright and Donovan Dent are better than Bennett Sturts. But I think that Bennett Sturts making the business decision to go to the place where he is going to be used the proper way. I think Bennett Sturts with Ben McCollum is as good in a vacuum as Donovan Dent with another coach. So, yes.
I'm just saying I don't think at Iowa he got anywhere near $3 million. He probably didn't get anywhere near.
Can you also
$2
please stop saying that you have a love affair with Bennett Sturts? Like, just please stop saying.
It doesn't sound
Please
good.
stop saying
Right,
that. I'm in love with the kid. I fell in love with the kid.
I love the kid's game. Great. I mean, he's a hell of a player.
Yep, I agree. Listen, Goodman, this has been fun. We'll be back again on Wednesday. At this rate, we're probably not going to have any more transfers to talk about. Everyone's going to be committed with the way that this thing has been kind of going. And
that's the hope. Oh, I got one more. Rylan Griffin. Alabama could go back. Could go back to Alabama. Texas A&M's in there. I think Florida's in there a little bit. Could go back to Kansas too. So it could go back to Alabama. Could stay at Kansas. Texas A&M's in there. Texas A&M's got to have some money lying around, right? I mean, Bucky Ball, he just got the right. I know they have money. What I'm saying is basketball money. Do they have basketball money? Big basketball money.
Do they care about basketball at Texas A&M?
Great
I
question.
don't think they do. Listen, this has been fun. We'll be back again on Wednesday with more of the Field of 68 after lunch. For Rob Dauster, for Jeff Goodman, for our producer, Trevor Valise, the best producer that we have here on the Field of 68. Wow. He's having let's just say it's a stressful day with a certain player that is currently visiting Champaign. So we'll see if Trevor ends up having a good day as a result. But we'll talk